I'm going to do some stage managing here. This is better. Hello. Hi, everybody. Are you having a good time at Slush? I can't hear you. That's better. Right. Peter, how are you? Are you well?
I'm good, thank you. It's good to be back in the Nordics. I was born and raised in Sweden, so I love being back here.
Exactly, you were. But you weren't just born and raised in Sweden. You created a company in Budapest. Why?
That's right. Well, my parents are from Hungary, so at home we would speak Hungarian. And I've always been thinking about how I could be part of creating a company in an unexpected place like Budapest. And I met these two wonderful co-founders who were based in Budapest, and we said, in the middle of the biggest recession in the last 30, 40 years, that why don't we take on Microsoft, Apple, and Google, and you know, started from Budapest, and that's how we got started with Prezi.
You didn't really, I mean, I don't really believe you that you decided to take on Microsoft, Apple, and Google. Did you feel that at the time that you were sitting on something that could scale to as many users as it has?
But I have to admit, Prezi has reached beyond our wildest expectations. That's true. But when we sat down and we said we wanted to help people to convey their ideas in a better way, I mean, where everyone's minds went, well, are you going to compete with PowerPoint? Is that what it means? And so, yeah, starting a company from Budapest at that time, people felt that taking on giants like that would be very hard.
Why? What do you think is the fundamental appeal of Prezi over the traditional slide format? I mean, what is it about it? I mean, does it connect differently to our brains in some way? You know, this infinite canvas?
I think so, absolutely. So let's test this. Mike, if you told me, what do you have in your kitchen? What kind of appliances do you use in your kitchen?
Toaster, kettle, oven,
okay,
you name it.
Great. And I guess what you just did right now is you imagined your kitchen and you took us on a walkthrough through your kitchen. You saw toaster, kettle.
Actually did it in chronological, sort of in the space, in order.
Right. Notice what you didn't do. You didn't build a list of words, neither bullet pointed or alphabetized. And the reason why you don't do that is because for millions of years, your brain has evolved to arrange information in the form of spatial visual arrangement. So essentially what Prezi does is it allows you to visualize a kitchen. So you can zoom out and see how the kettle and the toaster is next to each other, but you also recognize that you're in a kitchen. And you can translate that to a startup pitch, or you can translate that to a history of mankind. And what we know today is that people actually understand and remember presentations better in the form of
What
Prezi.
I think is interesting about Prezi is that you pitched at a startup competition, and then startups themselves started to use you to pitch themselves to investors.
Yes.
And funnily enough, I mean, that's partly how you managed to attract investment in the first place, correct?
Right. So back in 2008, again, big recession. There's a small company in Budapest. I actually did try to pitch a couple of investors, didn't get anywhere. So we decided to build the first version of Prezi, and we said that if the product will be good, then people will use it, and then we'll figure out, you know, how to fund it afterwards. And so we go to this event in Amsterdam, the next web, and we launch Prezi there, and we immediately get a large spread in the entrepreneurial community. And soon enough, it was essentially the investors that were coming to us, because all these entrepreneurs who started using Prezi to pitch their ideas, they were signaling to them that there's a shift in the market.
Why did you? Why have you continued to maintain this base in Budapest and not move the entire company to San Francisco? Most companies, when they get to this kind of scale you have and the amount of funding that you've raised, basically lock, stock and barrel go to the valley. Why have you maintained your such a large base in Budapest?
For us, we never even thought about moving that part of our business. So we started building our product in Budapest, and we felt that was actually working out really well for us, Now, with that said, we did open up offices in San Francisco year one already because we felt to go global, it was really important to have the biggest market in the world using Prezi, which is the US. So we opened up offices in San Francisco. And I would say that that was partly due to lessons that I learned from other entrepreneurs, even here in Europe. I think we too often see the case that you start a company in a smaller country like Hungary or Finland, and then you tend to think that, oh, if we would be big in, say, Germany, that would already be a huge win, and it's true. But on a global scale, Germany is still small compared to the US. And for example, given that Twitter and Yaiku almost started at the same time, it's a pity that Yaiku couldn't make it to a global scale faster, because had they done that, then they might still be around.
Your success has managed to attract the interest of new products in the market. So Microsoft has come out with Sway. Now, do you think Sway is a website builder, a presentation software? Famously, Microsoft itself has said, we're not quite sure what it is as well.
Right.
We're going to let the users decide.
Well,
I mean, do you feel this is flattering to you or not?
If Microsoft doesn't know, then probably I shouldn't say that we will know exactly what Sway will be. Look, what I think Sway does say is that Microsoft feels a need to start inventing and redefining how people can think about productivity and share their stories. And I think that's really great, because if you think about it, in the last 25 years, there has been, in my view, one company that has redefined the way people tell stories or present their ideas, and that's been Prezi. So I hope that they've gotten some inspiration from that.
Would you say that Microsoft might be an acquirer for Prezi one day?
The way we think about what we want to achieve with Prezi is really to help 2 billion people to share their ideas in more compelling ways. Now, we don't think of either staying private, doing an IPO, or even getting acquired as a goal in itself. I think there's ways that you can set up acquisitions that actually help companies to achieve their purpose. And if there would be such an acquisition, we should have to consider that. But I think about those things in a very opportunistic way.
Well, while we've been on stage, you've made an announcement which is quite significant in your company's history.
It's very significant. So just as of this minute, we are announcing that we've raised $57 million.
So you've raised $57 million, and you're announcing that today on stage here at Slush. Who have you raised it from?
So it's from our previous investors, Excel, who you know as the first investors in Facebook. But then a new investor has joined. They called Spectrum Equity, and it's really nice to be working with them because they have this amazing track record of working with companies that have a subscription model just like Prezi. And so they work with SurveyMonkey, Ancestry.com, Lynda.com, all of these amazing companies that we love being in that group of companies who are changing the world and the world of productivity in unexpected ways.
How many users do you now have as of today?
Yeah, so in the last year we nearly doubled, and today we have 50 million people who have signed up to start using Prezi.
50 million?
Yes.
Do you think that, obviously given your user traction, your fundraising, you must surely have joined the billion-dollar unicorn club now, have you not?
Well, I will let you speculate about the valuation. We haven't gone public on that, but the valuation increase is very significant. Yeah.
That's a very diplomatic answer. Perhaps Microsoft can't afford you now.
Oh, well, Microsoft has a lot of money, so I shouldn't comment on what they can't afford or not. But
have they approached you?
there's a lot of companies that are keeping their eyes on what Prezi is doing right now.
Right. Yeah, but have they approached you?
That's something that we will have to discuss after we get off the stage.
Fair enough. You're taking a holiday, aren't you?
Oh, yes. So in the last 3 years, I haven't taken much of holidays, but actually after this conference, I'm going for 1 week holiday. So I'm getting on a plane here. I'm meeting up with my mom, who's joining from Sweden, and we're going for a week in Japan. So it'll be great.
You probably deserve a holiday after all that hard work. How would you, I mean, it must be quite a feverish atmosphere in Silicon Valley and in San Francisco now. How would you characterize what's going on at the moment versus, say, 5 years ago?
It's definitely like night and day. So it was interesting, you know, the other day I took the car between our offices in San Francisco and down in the valley, and it took, instead of what it could have taken 45 minutes, it took me 1.5 hours to get there. And I was talking to people about that, you know, they haven't seen this many cars on the 101 since the last boom. So it's absolutely very, very.
As an observer, and obviously as a CEO and a founder in Silicon Valley, do you feel that it's sustainable? Do you think it's going to go away or pop? Or what's your prediction over the next year or so?
I think all economies go through cycles, and we shouldn't expect anything else. I think at the end of the day, you know, those companies that have a sustainable business, they will be the ones who will stick around. And, you know, even with Prezi, we've raised $15.5 million before this current round, and we actually haven't used a single dollar of that just yet, simply because
I was going to ask you about
people are willing
Why?
to pay for Prezi.
People must think you're absolutely insane. Most Valley startups, they've probably burnt through $14 million in the last week, just hiring people. You haven't touched that money. Why?
Well, essentially, you know, things have evolved incredibly well. As I said, beyond our wildest expectations with regards to people just using it to do their work better. And for a lot of people in marketing, sales, consulting, these are the first ones who tend to join Prezi.
Do people think you're a bit of a cheapskate? Are you
probably
not
they do.
spending the money?
Probably they do.
Are you hard on your staff, on their expenses?
Well, look, at the end of the day, I think we should use money to further our mission. And so it's quite easy to spend money on all other stuff, right?
Do you travel economy?
I travel economy every time. Yeah.
So
that may sound like a good thing, but when you're going back and forth between Budapest and San Francisco, it gets tiring.
Your co-founders are an architect, and a CTO, and an artist. How much has the artistic community informed what you do?
Very much. So without Adam, we would have never probably come up with Prezi. Adam is a world-renowned artist, actually, and that's how he started his career. And he would do these beautiful visualizations that everyone wanted to go and see at art exhibitions. And we figured that that's actually something that other people wanted to use to tell their stories with as well, right? And so for me, the world of art and design is probably the most basic source of inspiration for what Prezi is today. But in general, even shining a light on just our most basic assumptions, I don't think there's any other field besides art that does that better.
Where do you think this can go? Do you feel that Prezi will always be the same as a product in the way we know it today, or do you feel that there's somewhere else you can go? One of the things that I was interested to read when I was researching was how it's become known so much for training and for education.
Right. Right.
I mean, not just simple, you know, replacing PowerPoint, but education as well.
Yeah.
Where can you go with that?
Well, I think, you know, if we think about what really is the purpose of presenting ideas. I mean, in many ways, the presentations that you do about yourself is a big part of identifying who you are and understanding who people are as your clothes and your appearance, right? So we think of presentations as a connective tissue between you and your audience. And one thing that we have discovered is, for example, a lot of people really like Prezi because they think of slides as something that you can put on the side, that can kind of sit separately from you. But with Prezi, they feel that it creates this world where you're immersed into as a presenter, but also as an audience.
What I'd like to know also...
So it does create much more meaningful conversations.
Well, this is what I want to ask you. Do you feel that you can expand, for instance, into the enterprise as a sort of a team tool, as opposed to education and presentation? Is there a sort of a B2B play here to be had?
Absolutely, and in fact, you know, Prezi has been these 50 million people who have joined. They have usually joined because they see Prezi in a meeting or at a conference and they want to start using it themselves. But the newest trend that we're seeing is that people are starting to use Prezi together with their teams. So they are co-editing Prezis together. They're using Prezis remotely, even if they're not in the same place. And so team licenses is actually becoming a significant part.
Do you feel like it's a sort of a Trojan horse into the business?
This is absolutely our Trojan horse into the business. And I would say that we're not really aiming at, you know, the top-down sales model where we're going to, you know, try to convince CIOs of large companies to adopt. But what we see is actually that the users who have the need to tell the compelling stories, they are the ones promoting Prezi from inside.
If you're, there are many European entrepreneurs here, what would be your your top three or top line advice to give to entrepreneurs coming out of Europe and scaling globally? Raise money and then don't spend it, or what?
Right. No, I think actually the most important thing that we talked about even before is we have to think big, even if we start from a small country here in Europe. And so if you have an idea that you're working on that has a global potential, never let the fact that you're starting from a small market be something that keeps you back. So for example, in Prezi, we created an English version only of Prezi to begin with. Only during this year did we add the Hungarian version.
Only this year?
Only this year. And that was because we had our mind set on going global, and we knew that there was one market that could bring us there, which is the US one. And I see all too often this mistake being made where you kind of think that, oh, well, you know, it would be good if we had a couple of countries in Europe using...
Think big. I wanted to broach with you a subject which I know that you personally want to get out there. We've talked about this, which is that you are a member of the gay community.
All right.
Correct?
Yes, that's right. Who told you? Tim?
You did.
Okay.
And it's I think it's what do you feel about saying that? Why do you feel it's important to say this?
Well, the reason why this topic is important is because, well, essentially, growing up, I was really ashamed of this topic. But then I was very fortunate because I found a partner who I've been together with for more than 10 years, and without him, I probably couldn't have done all of those things that I'm doing right now. I mean, his support has been a really important part of just, you know, becoming the person that I am today. And I have found through these last few years that, you know, the things that people are thinking that these are things worth being ashamed of changes over time. Take my mother as an example. She grew up in Budapest 60 years ago, and she's left-handed. And at that time in Hungary, it was really inappropriate to be left-handed. So she would reach with her left hand, and people would kind of smack
During
her on
sort
her
of the
hand.
old communist times or whatever.
Yeah, and she shouldn't be writing with her left hand and these kind of things. And that just seems bizarre to us today, right? I mean, no matter where you go in the world. And I hope that in 30 years or so, the topic about whether you're gay, straight, bi, or transsexual, whatever, will be a topic like this. But we know that today it isn't. And so I hope that by talking about this, we can maybe feel a little bit less ashamed of this topic. That's all.
Were you in any way... Did you feel that it was the right time to talk about this because of what Tim Cook at Apple said recently, or is it something you wanted to do yourself?
Well, in fact, I had planned to talk more about this before Tim did, but I think Tim has shown great leadership, and I think it's great that there are more and more people who are talking about this openly. So I hope it'll break the stigma associated, and we'll have a Finnish CEO that we all know is gay, and we'll have a Hungarian one, etc.
Peter Arvai, congratulations on your success, raising your new round, your user growth, and on your personal story. Great to see you.
Thank you so much.